Today on the show, strategy plus action equals going live to build your brand. Success in business and life is a constant back and forth of charting your course and taking the consistent steps every day to move you forward. Both are critical. My guests on this show range from hardworking entrepreneurs starting from scratch to visionary leaders of cutting-edge companies looking to scale. I help you understand the strategies that are working for them and the actions you can take to model their success. For me, a show like this is all about joining forces with my guests to dig deep and create something new for you. Whether that's a small insight that gets you unstuck or a path of massive growth through customized marketing and creative sales initiatives. Welcome to Strategy in Action. Welcome to Strategy in Action. I'm your host, Jason Croft, and today on the show, we've got Cameron Toth. He is doing an amazing show called BizDev Live on LinkedIn, as well as a show called the Master Connector Show with Steve Spiro, a past guest you may have seen on here as well. And they're bringing it when it comes to showing up and doing these live episodes on LinkedIn. It's such a powerful platform. Inherent in that choice to not only be on camera and interview folks and have that kind of content going out there for you, the specific choice to do it live is really strong and powerful. Part of it, you'll hear too, is like, I don't want to edit anything. I just want to go live, and that's a choice too. And that's a benefit of it. But some of the things that are really powerful is that, it forces you into, if you're doing it even halfway right, it forces you into a consistent schedule. It's powerful in not only inviting guests, but having those guests show up when you have this set schedule that Cameron talks about. So it's really strong. And so we get into these benefits, long-term and short-term benefits to doing this kind of initiative to grow your business as well as your personal brand, and how the two certainly go together. We get into what Cameron has going on with his main company, Toth Event Staffing, and how the two can grow together, how they have, and the benefit of having this show has meant to him as a person, much less a business owner. It's really, really strong. So let's jump in with Cameron Toth. Welcome to Strategy in Action, everybody. Cameron Toth, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me on Strategy in Action. I like the title already.
Nice. I appreciate that. I had the good fortune to be on Cameron's show here this week, actually, BizDev Live. Such a blast. Great show. He has way more confidence than I by going live every week. Just free flowing and all of that. I screw up a lot, and you guys don't see that because I get to edit all that out. So hats off to you, Cameron.
Like I said to you before, Jason, hats off to you, because for anybody that isn't good at post-production, I have iMovie with Mac. And so if you have a Mac, you may or may not know it. I know for a long time I didn't. But if you have a Mac, you have iMovie, and you can go in and you can actually do post-production, edit videos, and you should for your content, right? If you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, let me go and create some media. I probably need some media content. And so you have that ability, just having a Mac computer, right? And I didn't know that for a long time. You got iMovie, you can go in there. But it is painful to do jump cuts. And for anybody that doesn't know what a jump cut, you've probably seen a jump cut, right? Where like Jason was saying, maybe you made a mistake in the video, and so you're able to edit that out. Just going in, and especially when I was starting, Jason, to go in and edit out all the ums and the this and the that, I would have spent an hour making the show and 20 hours editing the show. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not up for that. I'm going to get better at speaking. That's going to be my priority. And I'm just going to hit this thing live. And so 313 episodes later, it's been working out all right. We've got the production, because at the end of the day, like I think we're going to, talk about, it's about producing the content. It's about getting your stuff out there so that people can search for it. I don't know. I was listening to somebody the other day, and they said, if you're if you're a ghost on Google, right? And that's what you don't want to be. So putting out that content, right, is at the end of the day, if it's bad content, good content, great content, doesn't matter if it's just content out there that's searchable and building in the search analytics for you.
Absolutely. And just like anything else, you you work to get better. But that self-awareness, I mean, we're laughing and joking about it, but it's a really critical level of self-awareness to go, okay, where's my time best spent? Maybe, in 6 months, I'll change the format and hire an editor and do all of this, because yes, it is a bottleneck. I mean, I've been doing video for 30 years. I've been editing for 30 years. It's still a bottleneck for me. It's just the nature of the beast. It's where things slow down if you're having to do it yourself. And I mean, I did the same thing on my second show where I'm driving people around. Like I took the where's the time? So I'm here doing this all by myself. So what are the constraints I can apply and still have it be good? I need it to be a single camera, so I'm not editing a bunch of things around. I need to make it simple, all of that. So I hear you for sure. It's a big time. And yes, go ahead.
We were talking about that, right? It's as hard as you want to make it, right? And so if you're thinking you got to compare your first day to somebody's like 10th year, right? So I'm looking at, Team Gary Vee or some other social media guru or broadcast television, and I'm trying to put together something that looks like what they're producing with multiple cameramen and sound crew and everything else that goes into like a live production telecast, at a studio. And I'm trying to do that in my, home office. You're setting yourself up for a lot of frustration. I went through a lot of frustration just trying to set up a basic setup that I have here. And, thankfully it's working better than ever. But I got to tell you, from Wi-Fi, router issues, internet connect, doing a live show, you're running into all these things with, is my internet loading? What does my face look like as the speeds are messed up? And I had to learn what download speed versus upload speed, because I had no idea. So anybody that's getting started, push the dang button. I would not have gotten to 313 episodes today if I didn't just push the dang button and start the first episode.
Absolutely. It's so huge. And that's what I really want to get into today. I want to cover, what you're doing, business wise overall. And I want to give some people some geography and some context to that.
Sure.
But that's really what I want to dig in today with is that power of, video, specifically on LinkedIn, kind of specifically the live version too. And I think there's a I don't know if it's extra power, but a certain, it means something different. There's a different dynamic, right? Not just the live aspect, but how LinkedIn feels about it and all of that things, which is positive. And how that's, the decision to go into that and do it, and how that's affecting the show itself, being consistent like you have been for 300 plus episodes, and then affecting your other business, right? And so give some people some context of what you've got going, and then what was that decision like to go like, you know what? I need to jump on LinkedIn. This is my home. This is where my clients are. What can I do to stand out?
All right. There's a lot there. So let me unpack this with the LinkedIn story, right? So I was on LinkedIn early. I don't know the year offhand. I know I was on YouTube probably around 2006, and I wasn't on LinkedIn much longer than that. And I mentioned YouTube because I wasn't taking YouTube as seriously as I should have, and I wasn't taking LinkedIn as seriously as I should have. As I think most people that are on LinkedIn don't take it as seriously as they should, because there's a really, really, really huge opportunity for your business from both a relationships point of view and a sales numbers, impact, reach point of view. You can pay for advertising, or you can create these networks that advertise for you, and you can put out basically content that you make and get more reach than you could potentially pay for. You could put a little bit of money into putting together a team and have a lot more reach than what you could just go and work with an agency or buy advertising space, right? And so the strength of your what you're doing and the team can be magnified so much more. And then you get a professional like yourself, Jason, to work with you. And then you can take that to the limit if you're really utilizing LinkedIn. But for so long, I wasn't. So let's go back to 2020. I have a staffing company that I started in 2011. So in 2020, this fairly successful 6-figure a year. I'm not, killing it 7 figures in 2020, right? I'm not running around in Lamborghinis, but I'm leading a very comfortable life. I see my children every day. That's part of the reason I became an entrepreneur, right? 18 years this past Monday with my wife. We've been married for 18 years. We have 4 kids together. So actually seeing her, seeing them, that's been a big part of my push to be an entrepreneur, is to sort of own the keys to my own schedule. And so that was all going well. Get to 2020, and I get a little bit of time to think, because I have a business that sends out waiters and bartenders and chefs in Westchester, New York, Lower Connecticut, NYC. Westchester is my home base. That's where the majority of my business is. Pandemic, the story. World shuts down. Live events, social events are basically made illegal, like illegal. Like the cops are coming to tell you you can't do this. Well, that's kind of hard for a business that sends out staff to work live events. It's hard for my staff. It was hard for me. So I had a little bit of time to be introspective. And luckily I had time to be introspective because I had actually built a business, not necessarily just a job, but a business. And that's what I talk about in BizDev Live, is building a business, with structure, and, you have some options then, right? And so I learned all the lessons the hard way. I learned what it is to run a business as a DBA and run into tax trouble. I learned all those lessons early on in 2015 and became an S Corp. And so an S Corp, for anybody that's, looking on the business side of things, you can actually pay yourself as an employee. It's a pass-through organization. It's a great tax kind of thing to take advantage of in the United States if you're in business. And so come to the pandemic, 2020, it's bad, but PPP, I can pay myself. I'm not panicking. Right. I got some options. I got some things. And so that was great. And so I felt like, even though things were challenging, I had some things to share and teach. And so a big part of my story is that I'm passionate about opportunity and education. That stems from my own education. I've been involved with a nonprofit for the last 26 years because I started with the nonprofit because I was interested in the music industry, and that's how we pull kids in. You rope them in with their interests. Right now, it's the performing arts. Then it was the music industry. I was a DJ in high school. I was calling record labels. I was getting swag. I was faxing record labels to date myself a little bit. We were getting cassette tapes. Again, to date myself, right? 1996, right? And I stayed apart because I got to do some of the fun things that I loved, and I liked the business aspect. I was learning how to do that stuff, but I stayed involved because I was like, man, I should have had this when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, because I got to my senior year of high school, all 4 years, blah, blah grades, but still didn't graduate because I didn't dot my I's, didn't cross my T's. So that's the start of my journey. Didn't graduate high school. Then I have a child with a woman that I'm not planning to spend the rest of my life with at 19. So I'm making these really, really hard choices that aren't just hard on me, but they're hard on the people in my life. This new child that I love, it's going to be hard on him. It has been hard on him, and it's been hard on us. We don't have the relationship. He's 24 years old, and I don't get to talk to him. I'm very fortunate that in 2004, I got married with my wife. We have 4 kids together, and it's been a beautiful thing. And I love raising my kids, and it's a passion part of my story. But I can't watch a movie that has a male, bonding relationship between father and child without going into tears because of that relationship. So that drives me. And that was my early start to life. I wasn't looking at financial resources, educational resources, but I was saying to myself, man, I need a college education, right? But I'm not looking at anything. So I'm, I'm young father, get my GED, chasing the college thing, but I'm not not looking at what, opportunities are there and what I really need to look at. And I wasn't focused. So I'm following the girl in the red leather pants. I just had a child with a woman, and I'm still focused on the assets and the red leather pants as I'm, going into school. So I went to Eugene Lane College, a new school in New York City. And 2 years later, I'm dropping out because I wasn't focused. And so I'm really passionate about helping people connect their moment right now to 20 years from now. So 2020, I've built this, business, and I got a break and I got a little time to introspect. I'm like, you know what? I need to take advantage of these channels, YouTube and LinkedIn. I need to take advantage of them. I had posted videos for the nonprofit that I work with in 2009. I wasn't smart with it. I didn't put thumbnails that, were very attractive. I didn't have keyword strategy. I didn't know any of that stuff. I've learned that since starting BizDev Live and really getting into how to grow a channel. But, I didn't know any of that stuff. But between 2009 and 2020, those handful of videos that I had posted on my rinky-dink YouTube channel that had no following had generated 40,000 views. Jason. 40,000 views. 40,000 views on very little effort. And so I said,
and that's a little piece too that I think that's why I think so many people sleep on YouTube because of the immediacy of the social channels. I can see yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. This one worked, but that evergreen aspect of YouTube is massive, and I'm actually seeing a big swing back to YouTube from some of the largest folks doing this out there because of that fact. They're just like slapping themselves, going, wait a second, they look back at their YouTube channel just like you're talking about and go, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything with this, and look at these thousands of views. I'm going to start paying more attention to that and being more intentional there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody that started a YouTube channel, you're going to know that it's tough. I mean, it's very difficult, to land a video that goes quote unquote viral. There was a young woman, alumni of the program that I work with, the nonprofit, and she had a breast reduction surgery. And so she posted that video and it got a ton of views. I mean, that alone may have had 4,000, 40,000. I don't remember but it was, into the thousands of views. And you could see that she was struggling with the content afterwards, because while that video hit, what was she talking about? What was her brand? What was she, what was going to continue to hit? And you can see there's these YouTubers out there. They, once you have a following, obviously it becomes easier to maintain it, but they're doing a lot to maintain it. They're spending on it. It becomes a production thing. Once you're making money with it, you're continuing to spend money to keep the money rolling in. Mr. Beast, being the greatest example of, I forget the amount that he's spending on a YouTube video, but I think it's like $1 million, like a YouTube. It's crazy. It's wild, the amount of money that they're spending to be these top performers. Again, don't compare your day one to somebody's, year 10, 20, 30. And another example that sort of made me make that decision in 2020 that I needed to get serious with my media, get serious with LinkedIn was, looking at the example of, oh, wow, 2009, who was getting started? Oh, Joe Rogan was getting started. Gary Vee was getting started basically on stuff. He had started a little bit earlier, but, getting serious on YouTube. These folks, the story with Joe Rogan. I mean, he started his podcast in 2009 and in 2018, 2019 sold it to, and we, the number originally was like, I don't know, what was it, to 100 million?
Yeah, 100 million.
100 million. And then later you found out it was really closer to like 200 million.
Right.
It's time, amount of time times consistency times effort, right? I mean, I think just putting it in, I don't know about you, but I'd be happy with 1% of not even of the 200 million of the 100 million, right? I mean, just to be able to say there's a show that I like doing, I enjoy doing it, and I get to make something from it. Somebody's willing to pay for it. So I think that's a big deal. And so take this to the LinkedIn piece. So when I started BizDev Live, I didn't even have access to LinkedIn Live. So in March of 2020, I'm on YouTube. I think fairly soon, I became aware of LinkedIn Live, and I was applying, but I wasn't getting in. And so I was, on StreamYard broadcasting to YouTube and Facebook without very much engagement. So I was just looking into the camera, talking into the abyss, not much following, not much engagement with the shows. Maybe somebody made a comment on Facebook, that kind of thing. Certainly nobody was commenting for the most part on YouTube. It's bleak. It can be challenging in that retrospect, but eventually BizDev Live was getting noticed by people. It was making noise, and certainly people in my network were like, "Oh, that's cool, right? That's going on." And we go to November of 2020, and a gentleman that I had met through Master Networks, a networking organization, he has a considerable larger following on LinkedIn than I do. I think he's currently up to 16,000. At the time, I was probably, I was definitely at 2,500 followers, connections on LinkedIn. And he had LinkedIn Live, and he was like, I have access to this LinkedIn Live thing, but I don't really know what to do with it. I have it, but what do I do with this thing? And I was so happy that he was reaching out to me, because I was like, well, I don't have access to LinkedIn Live, and I would very much like to be on LinkedIn Live. And so we started doing this show called the Master Connection Series, which has morphed into the Master Connector Show around his brand of being a master connector. And it's been a great partnership between him and I. And we did this for anybody that's like, oh, am I producing? So I did it for free. I did it to learn, right? Again, we're in the middle of the pandemic. I just want to get better at this. I want to expand my brand, because eventually I want to connect what I'm doing right now to 20 years from now. I want this brand. I want the ability to impact the world. I want to be able to start the Cameron Toth Foundation for bringing opportunity to every young woman and child and that sounds grandiose. I like big dreams, and I like the idea that a small child growing up in a trailer park someplace can have the same access. And not only can they have the same access to opportunity, right? But somebody's there to show them the ropes, that they have a mentor. That's what the college and career preparatory program is all about. That's based out of A. Philip Randolph Campus High School in Harlem that I work with. Soundbusiness.org. That's what we do. And we're connecting mentors in the business community, alumni, to these high school kids, so that they're getting a little bit of a vision on how to connect right now to 20 years from now. And so I'm trying to do that for myself, because I want to have a bigger impact on the world. So I got involved with Steve so that I can expand my ability. We can have a little bit more reach and impact with the show. Show took off. We based it on a model that I had seen work on Facebook, which was a gentleman by the name of Chaz Wilson, who founded Master Networks, was bringing community leaders from the organization from different parts of the country. And because there were several people on the show, they were bringing viewers with them. And so they were creating a community, and people were fired up because their connection, their hero was on the show. So it brought more people than Chaz could just bring by himself. And suddenly there was a large following. And there was a reason to tune into the show, because, well, people were tuning in and people were in the comments. So you could network in the comments. You could connect with people. It was fun. And that's what we did. And so we started inviting. And Steve, by the way, Steve Spiro is a beast. He is called the Master Connector for a reason. We were putting shows together. We've done 55 episodes, I believe, now. And early on, we were using this model of, having like 3-4 guests on at a time. And we never had a problem getting guests. He would connect, hit them, have conversations. I don't know how he schedules the phone calls he gets done in a week. He's a miracle worker in my mind. I was like, I can't get through all the stuff I got to do in a week. I can't meet with all these people. I have such he's meeting with people left and right, connecting. I'm like, oh my goodness. And we connected off of a great conversation where he recommended a book to me. He was a hero. I'm like, he's just this is a great network guy. So we started the show together.
Yeah, and real quick, if you haven't checked out the episode, by the time this one's airing, episode with Steve will have aired. So make sure you go and check that out too, and you'll understand exactly what Cameron's talking about here for sure.
He's an amazing guy. So we started that show, and then later on, I kept on asking for LinkedIn to give me access to LinkedIn Live, and eventually I got access to it. So, the moral of that story is, endeavor on, keep pushing, and eventually the thing that you want to happen happens. And so now BizDev Live goes live on LinkedIn, and the value of being live on LinkedIn is, I have a business-oriented show. It's about entrepreneurs. It's about connecting people, networking in the comments. It's about learning. It's about education. There's no better platform for that than LinkedIn. And so BizDev Live's true home is on LinkedIn. The repository for all the content, the way that you can most easily view an episode is YouTube. But the place you want to go to view BizDev Live is LinkedIn, because you're going to go and you're going to have some great conversations. You can ask questions of the guests live. It is fun. And it's a great way to create content. It's a great way for me to experience the people that I'm interviewing. It's a great way to bring energy, because not every guest you have is going to be an electric dynamo. So hopefully there's some great comments and questions in the audience. It's a way to keep it really interesting and fresh. And if you're creating something, there's no better way to create energy around it than having a community.
Yeah, big time. And as a guest and a viewer, it is so much fun. That dynamic is, that dynamic is great. And then you have a good balance too of engaging, pulling up those comments, you as the host, getting that, keeping that running, that through line, but it doesn't feel interruptive either, that I've seen on some lives of somebody just on there and they're in the middle of a thought and it's just like, oh, hey, Doug, shout out to Doug. Like, and you're just watching this thing going like, why don't you finish what you're saying? And then,
and you listen, for anybody that's doing this, using a platform like StreamYard or Restream to go on LinkedIn Live, I think, it's more accessible than ever before. So if you want to get out there, and for anybody that's like, oh, everybody's streaming, everybody's doing it, it's so crowded and populated. Listen, I think the metrics on it are, there's like less than 1%. Now, forget about LinkedIn Lives. There's less than 1% of the 700 plus million, and forget about the 700 plus million number, because there's like 700 million people on LinkedIn, which, we hear these big numbers, 700 million. What does that mean? Well, the population of the United States in total is less than like 350 million, I believe. I think it's right around there, right? So you have a population on LinkedIn, and there's a big international community that is larger, literally larger than the United States, almost times two, right, on LinkedIn. Now, out of those 700 million people that are on LinkedIn, 380 million, I believe, are actually active people that are checking into LinkedIn accounts. And then out of the 380 million, right, not even using that big 700, out of the 380 million, less than 1% of people are posting on LinkedIn. So you might be connected to a lot of people that are posting on LinkedIn, but for the majority of people on LinkedIn, they are consuming content. They are not posting content. So for you and your business, that should spell huge opportunity. And everyone posting is not everyone posting. It's just your feed.
Yep.
It's always going to be populated because that's what the social media engines do. They populate your feed with the people that are posting. Do you want to be one of the people that are posting, or do you not want to be one of the people that are posting? That's the choice you have to make.
Yeah, big time. And to go back to what you were saying too about, growing this channel, and you have multiple reasons for it, right? Growing this platform of yours. And you think back, Joe Rogan did this, now he's to this, and all that's great. Some people have zero desire to, be that, even have a platform and all of that. And what I mention to those folks and try to shake into them is that's icing on the cake. For some people, I mean, again, you talk about percentages, a tiny percentage want to even go down that road. They've got their thing, their business, and what they're doing in life. And what I try to get across to them is all that's icing. All the promise of content marketing that we've heard is great.
Oh, and we're definitely mentioning like the outliers, right? Like Joe Rogan is an
for sure.
Outlier. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are not successful. I'm not saying you're going to start a podcast and be Joe Rogan,
of course, but that's
you can have like 0.00001% of the success that Joe Rogan's have and still be pretty comfortable.
Well, yeah. And not only that though, but that's the, I would say, the typical view of starting a podcast, starting a show, this and that, is like, that's how it's beneficial, is X amount of years later, I can have advertisers, I can charge, I can blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But the whole effort in doing this, you can have value tomorrow by doing this and getting this started to your existing business. And that's the biggest thing. And then all of those other amazing things might happen. They're evergreen. They're going to grow. All the promise of content marketing is going to be there, that evergreen aspect of it. But when you have the right intention and you structure things the right way, then you can benefit your business right now, immediately. And that goes into...
let me talk about that just really briefly, because I know there's some people out there that are going to be like, and I know I've had the conversation. Steve has asked me the question, right? You're doing this biz dev thing, how does that actually benefit your business? And I struggle with it. Listen, I know I should be creating more media for Toth Event Staffing. If you go onto the Google review page and you check out my website, there's some imagery there, there's some video there. I could be doing a lot more. There's a Toth Event Staffing Instagram account. There's a Toth Event Staffing Twitter account. I don't know when the last time I've been on that. I could definitely be doing a better job with creating media around Toth Event Staffing. I've done some. I have an event coming up. We're scheduling a photographer to make sure that at this large event that we're capturing our photo of our staff. But the reason I do the Biz Dev Live, and it's not a hospitality podcast. It has nothing to do with Toth Event Staffing other than the fact that it pulls from my experience as an entrepreneur to educate other entrepreneurs. The reason I do it and the reason that it benefits Toth Event Staffing is that it improves me. It makes me a better speaker, makes me a better leader. I get to learn from people. I spoke to Yahavi St. Clair. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. He's got his own podcast. And he was talking to me about how it's helped him really just get educated, be in the room with other intelligent folks and learn from them and become a better speaker in his own right for his business, which is a personal fitness business. And so anybody can really benefit from that. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're, brain surgeon, neurosurgeon, well-educated. Every career, everyone can benefit from becoming a better communicator and becoming a better listener, period.
Yeah. And I think there's some direct ways that you could very easily shift and pivot, even what you're doing with Biz Dev Live, the existing show, existing brand, that could directly impact Toth Event Staffing, whether it's, inviting some folks on who make those hiring decisions, bring them on the show. Like I'm going to get intentional.
All right, now you're going to get me here with my pencil starting to make some notes. All right.
But that's exactly right, because it doesn't go outside of the show because they're another business owner, right? But it's the greatest thing in the world. This platform that we have.
I just wrote down invite caterers to be on Biz Dev Live. So worth the price of admission right now.
Absolutely perfect. But it's so powerful because, and there's a couple of lessons here that I want people to soak in is that aspect, right? Like I tell people all the time when I create shows for clients, it's for that. Like invite on your ideal client, that person you've been trying to get a phone call with, a meeting with, invite them on the show, have this conversation, shine a spotlight on them. It benefits your audience, it benefits them, it benefits you. And now there's a relationship there, right? It opens up, there's inherent follow-up in that, and everything. But secondly, what you've done, I did that with my second show, the driving around show. What I did poorly was connecting that to business, connecting that to an outcome for my business. What I did great was doing it anyway, doing 80 plus episodes, driving successful people, smart people, multimillionaire, around, having this interview and this conversation. Yes, everything that you described, better communicator, better, brand, built my network, right? All amazing stuff. But the other lesson in this is that now, even if you don't know how you're going to connect those things, or if you can, and all of that, it's like having a running start instead of once you go, oh, you know what I could do with a show, 6 months, a year from now. Well, now you've got 300 plus episodes, right? To where you've got this existing platform and you've got this validation of, oh yeah, hey, so-and-so caterer, come and be on the show. And they've got all this to look at and go like, oh, wow, awesome. And you're in it. You're just going. You're having this conversation. It's not like, okay, well, I'm finally getting to talk to so-and-so. Oh, how do I be a host? How do I, how do I do this, And so it's just having that running start that's so powerful.
Yeah. The muscle has definitely been flexed. It's been worked out and certainly gotten into it. I've had gentleman that runs a rental company, so that's a referral partner for me on the show, and so I've definitely utilized it. I've had the thought before. Sometimes you work in an industry where people are a little bit more camera shy than you would like, for these kind of opportunities, and so figuring out the right way to ask, the right way to position it has been sometimes a little bit of a challenge for me, and definitely something that I'm thinking through. But you're absolutely right. I think once you got the platform, it becomes so much easier for you to make it work, to create these really, really nice touch points in these existing relationships that you have. And I see how it already, even without that. And these are the things I think, I love talking to you because it's like, all right, I'm a little bit focused now on how I can actually tie this to the revenue and increase the prosperity of these relationships. But one of the things that's really great about having your name out on social media, especially YouTube, right? YouTube is the second most colossal search engine on the planet Earth, only topped by Google, which is, both owned by the same company. So now when you type in Cameron Toth, you can type in Biz Dev Live. My name pops up. It's that SEO factor. And so being able to just say, like, Google me and you pop up is such a big deal. And that plays over because Toth Event Staffing is tagged on a lot of the stuff. I'm not like Toth Event Staffing. I'm saying it now, right now. Now people aren't going to believe me, Jason. But I don't really talk about my company a lot in the episodes. I don't say it, but I can see it now. Even as we're coming back, I know that it would be busy, but I know that it's busier because of the name reputation that is magnified by the social media presence. Yeah. And I've always talked about social media being not so much a place where you get new clients from, but you stay in front of clients that have had touch base with you. So if your name is ringing out, if you have content that's ringing out, really doesn't matter what you're posting on, as long as they remember who you are and what you did for them. The fact that they're seeing you, you're more memorable, you're more quick to be called when they have the need.
Absolutely. Another past guest, Julian Placino, good buddy of mine, he has just done a phenomenal job, and I loved his term for it, and his focus on it is, passive income for your reputation. I thought, that's
Like
such a
that.
great way. He can put out a piece of content, and that for the life of that's just going to keep growing, out there. That's so strong. And I think, there's just so much value in what you're doing and having this, and there's a discipline to the way you're doing it. Another proponent of the live aspect is that not just that you're going live, but every week at this time, I'm doing this show. And that's a big piece that gets missed, certainly has by me in all of my shows, I would say, is that consistency. And the viewer or potential viewers love that consistency, but the algorithms really love that consistency. When you can have consistent upload to YouTube, consistent going live on LinkedIn, and you don't have to get mired in the algorithm and all of that, but there's certain
don't
big
try
levers.
not.
But there's certain big levers that you can know about and pull that'll just help you. Why fight upstream when you can flow with it?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think one of the things that's been really great, I mean, obviously, having bigger reach on content, going through a LinkedIn class with Jordan Mendoza right now and just optimizing content. Call to actions are a big deal, right? And remembering to call people to action and doing it in a way that plays nicely with the social media interaction. So I see a lot of people and they're creating these posts and they're sharing a link in the post. And it's really interesting with LinkedIn because you could be advertising a LinkedIn Live and that could be the link in the post. And still, because a lot of people are told this, there's probably not necessarily new information if you've been dabbling in the social media game, that the algorithms penalize any post that has an outside link. Well, LinkedIn doesn't really distinguish that much between a link to a LinkedIn Live and a link to an article outside of LinkedIn. They want you to stay on LinkedIn, and it doesn't matter what link is in there. Even if you're tagging a lot of people, they're penalizing the content. So your call to actions, if you're posting an event, a show, something that you want people to click on and move to, you're a whole lot better off, especially if you're not some person that has a major, huge following. Listen, if you're Gary Vee, if you're Oprah, you can get away with it, and you got so many people following you, people are going to click through. But if you're starting out, you got smaller amount of people, and I have, I've seen this true for folks that have like 16,000, 20,000 people following them on LinkedIn. They're posting content and they're getting like 3 or 4 likes. Meanwhile, I got my measly 6,000 connections and the content is moving. There's a lot more engagement on it than some of these folks that have much larger followings than I do. And it's following, basically the rules of the algorithm. If you do a word only, text only post that's spaced out, easy to read for folks, that's usually going to be the best performing thing on LinkedIn, especially if you post it early in the morning, you got some people engaging with it in the first hour, that thing's going to take off. It's going to do well. If you have an image, that'll also do well. Videos perform, and we're always told video is like the number one thing in all the platforms, but actually for LinkedIn, the video performs not so well compared to some other content because LinkedIn pushes the other content more. I don't know why. That's just the way it is.
It's interesting. There's still that's what I've been, and I think it's really been a shift in that. Even the last, I don't know, I've seen in the last 4 or 5 months that I used to be getting a lot more reach with, clips from this show, right? But then if I do a still from it or just a text only, like it's so much more, and it doesn't.
And then link in the comments, right? Link in the comments.
Oh,
tag
always,
people
yeah,
in
yeah.
the comments, right? And so that's the way. And it's surprising that also works on like Facebook. That also works on some of these other platforms.
Well, and
right?
that one's just logic, right? Like that one's easy for people to get when it's explained it to them, that these platforms want you to stay in their ecosystem. They want you to stay where you are. So anything you do to encourage somebody to leave, they're going to penalize that. Yeah.
So CTA, call to action, click down in the comments, put your emojis in there, make it visually interesting, give people a reason. What's in it for them? Steve Spear likes to say the whiff them, right? What's in it for them? Give them a reason to go click on the content. You'll see that your content gets a lot more reach, and make sure that your content is actually something that's, giving value. I mean, there's a lot of people that are posting commercials, and I don't recommend that, right? People don't want to see the commercials, but they really do appreciate value. So, I think the difference between a commercial for anybody that's listening and value is it's not much. It's just simply, is it focused on the person or self-focused, right? Is this a all about me thing, or is it all about you? Is this something that's going to benefit you by reading it, experiencing it? It actually provides a purpose, or is it just, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing, look at this cool thing. Hey, if you click here, there's this amazing program that costs $1,000 that you want to do. All right. Or, hey, these are the 3 things that I think will benefit you if you do them every day.
Yeah.
And here they are.
And that's certainly true, but there's also a place for both. And I would say both in every single post. You can lead, you can have all that value. And then a nice little like, oh, by the way, I can do all this for you if you want. If that's of interest to you, here's the thing, click in the comments below.
And we got into this on our show, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
Just because I'm saying don't do commercials doesn't mean you're not open to receiving. And I love the Go Giver, right? So I think the Go Giver lays out this better than anything else. Don't choose to not receive. In your content, be open to receiving. Let people know what you got going on, and that if they choose to, if they want to, you're open to working with them. I think anybody that's afraid to say that they have service of value to offer is being stingy, right? I mean, I think you need to put out with people that you have a valuable service or product because somebody needs that service or product. So it's not about not talking about how you help people. I just think that a lot of poor communicators are doing it in a way where they're not demonstrating value. They're simply stating that they can provide value. And in a world where everybody's shields and defenses are up, if you're not showing me, if you're not giving me any kind of social proof, which LinkedIn, by the way, for anybody that's on LinkedIn, there are so many ways to create social proof. If you work with somebody, I hope you're asking them for a recommendation on LinkedIn. That's like you're Amazoning yourself, right? I can go and see, oh man, I work with this guy worked with Jason Croft. They gave him a recommendation on LinkedIn, 5 stars, right? Boom, I'm buying it, right? Because that's what we do. That's the value of being on these platforms, creating great content, making sure that your profile, it's got some great call to actions. And then people can go and see, hey, this product that is Jason Croft, man, people have endorsed that. They've worked with him. They like him. He's connected. He's got a big network. That's the whole thing, right? That's why you're putting out content. That's why you're providing value, is to drive the people to the funnel, which is your LinkedIn page, your business page, your company page, your website, and let them see the value that you bring. Provide the social proof. Video, I think, does such a great job of that when you can capture the video testimonials. For my business, and I'll just show it here just to show the evidential piece of it. Here's a video that had a company in Westchester put together for me that showcases me talking about the hiring process and the waiters. And so, I have a business. I could tell you all day, I have people that look professional and they're awesome and amazing and all this, but there's nothing that's going to prove that to you short of seeing it. Right. Yes, your friend can refer you, but even seeing oh, that's how they look. That's what it looked. Oh, wow. That's what I want.
Big time. Yeah. I really dig what you're doing. This is awesome. It's so impressive because there's even before you show up to one of your shows, all those elements are there. And that's again, something else that, kind of help people with. Yeah, you can jump in and start doing a show tomorrow. But if you have these, not only the strategy, but also certain elements in place that people just have to glance at it and go like, oh, okay. There's a legitimacy there. It gets you to the next step. If somebody can just look at your YouTube channel, like not even click on a video and it just, wow, okay, that's sharp, and that stuff can be done with just a little bit of intentionality,
And you're talking about the visuals, the logos, imagery around it, the Biz Dev Live theme, intro videos, outro videos, which, I love when somebody's got their stuff and it looks like there's some thought and character around it. It's refreshing, and I've gotten a lot of comments, and it's not not anything that I spent huge amounts of money on, but it's definitely paid off in dividends because it makes it easier to have those conversations. And I'll say one thing about the live thing too. For anybody that's doing podcast recordings, if it's live, people show up and they know, right? Like it's live. And so there's a urgency and an emphasis on that it's important and it can't be rescheduled, like it's promoted in advance. So that makes it a little bit easier for me, at least, to have that consistency there, because people aren't rescheduling at a whim because they know you're putting some effort and there's some drive behind it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. You mentioned, I'm closing a loop here. You mentioned a book that Steve recommended to you in the very beginning, right when you guys met. What was the book?
Yeah. So he had recommended, because he was hearing about, I was talking about business. I was actually sitting in my office in the Chrysler building across from Grand Central, having this phone call with Steve, and I was talking about, my business is expanding. I have these kinds of challenges with growing the company. And he was like, oh, you need to read The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gruber. And man, I took his advice. I read the book and I was like, man, why didn't I read this book? If I would have been ready for it and I would have read it in 2011, it would have made a much easier path for me. And I was reading the book and saying to myself, yep, made that mistake. Yep, I did that wrong. Yep, I had that challenge. So for anybody that is thinking about the entrepreneurship game or in the entrepreneurship game and you have not read The E-Myth Revisited, take it from my man Steve Spiro, take it from myself. It is a really, really important book to read.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely that big shift when you get you out of, you created a job for yourself to, I'm going to build a business, it's a great foundational for that, for sure. So talking calls to actions, give us some, how can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm about relationships. So the best place really to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. For anybody that's wondering why LinkedIn, why don't you go, Cameron, why don't you send me to a website, or why don't you give me your phone number or something like this? It's a great social proof way for somebody to connect with me. I can sort of see what you're about, and I can help somebody more when they connect with me, because I can sort of see what their emphasis is on, especially if they've laid out their profile well and maybe even told their story in their about section. I can find ways to identify with them before we've ever talked. And then I'm always open for actually setting up a call with every single person that I connect with so that I can actually get into the nitty gritty of like, who are you? Let's understand who we are as people. Do you like mountain biking? I like mountain biking. Do you have family? I have family. Do you enjoy Netflix and shows like Bridgerton? I love Bridgerton. It's a really good show, and it's not the usual type of show for me. Usually, I'm a Sopranos, guns and blazing, action guy. But I really dig Bridgerton. Yeah, so we can get into those types of conversations, have some commonality, and whether we do business together or not, it's just really great to have a friend in the network. You never know when one of my friends is going to need a Jason Croft in their lives, and you never know when you reach me out on LinkedIn, whatever service you provide. Maybe one of the 6,000 plus people I'm connected to on LinkedIn really needs, and I mean really needs, your service, your help. And the only way that I'm going to be able to make that connection is if you reach out, connect with me, and we get to know each other a little bit and build some of that know, like, and trust factor so that I know that you're a good recommendation from my friend or colleague that needs a hand.
That's strong. That's strong. Are you always looking for new guests in that connection process? Who is... Yes. Second part question too, though, is who is your ideal client on the catering side, or not the catering side, the event staffing side? I'm assuming caterers and different folks like that.
So the ideal person that's a client for me is a catering manager, director, owner that is in the more corporate kind of side of things, that is trying to fulfill staff for the events that they have going on during the week. Caterers are great recommendations in the Westchester, NYC, Lower Connecticut area for people that want to come on the show and where that Venn diagram can either line up. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get more people to know about your catering company, I would love to have you on and network that way. And if you're an entrepreneur that has a story to share and some lessons to teach, that is my ideal guest, because we are trying to educate entrepreneurs and give them the advice of whatever industry you're in. There's an entrepreneur out there that needs your mentorship, that needs your guidance. And, either they're a potential client, they're a potential employee, they're a potential collaborator. If you don't do the show with me, they'll never know your story. If you do, there's a possibility that they might. So that's the ideal guest, is somebody that wants to come on and tell their story and help and start building some of those relationships.
Awesome. Cameron, thank you so much for being on. This has been an absolute blast.
Jason, you are awesome. And I got to tell you, it can sound simple, but recommending to a guy that has a staffing company to have caterers on your show, I know for some people out there, like, oh, that's a no-brainer, but we all get lost in our stuff sometimes. We were having the conversation about TikTok. I know I should be creating content for TikTok, and I create all this content all the time, but for whatever reason, I'm just getting lost in it and not turning on the camera and speaking, even though I turn on the camera and speak every day. For some reason, the TikTok thing is messing me up. But just getting people in your network like yourself, Jason, that remind you, hey, bring that bottom line thinking into your relationships. And it's not a thing about it makes me any less relationship focused or any less giving back. It's just like, hey, you got connections over here that could actually benefit you. Hey, why not? And I love that kind of steering in the right direction. We need that mentorship. I need that mentorship. Thank you very much for the action, then the strategy from the Strategy and Action Show.
Perfect. Because isn't it always the case with all of us that it's so much easier to see it, what the other person, the other business needs to do, rather than and that's the critical, amazing, wonderful thing about that kind of dynamic, from connecting with people, having mentors, all of that. Man, I can't tell you how many times that, someone, just that little outside perspective, and just be like, well, you could just do this. And you're like, oh yeah, thank you. I needed that.
Isn't that the beauty of being a consultant, though? Because a lot of times in order just to have a good conversation with somebody, it's not very polite to offer them advice, even if you think your advice is worldly. They don't care. They want to tell their story, their side. They're on their side. But when somebody hires you and says, "I value the information and knowledge that you have now permission to provide that advice," and you got somebody that obviously they're paying for it, the ears are open, that's what they're come to you. And I think that's the greatest thing about being a consultant, is that you have somebody that's willing to listen and take the advice. And like you said, it's always easier to be on that end of like, hey, I've been where you are, and let me show you how to tweak this up because I can see it. I might not always be able to see the stuff in my own business, but I can see what's going on in yours and help you out. And it's a mutually beneficial conversation that we're going to have there. I love it.
Yep. That's awesome. All right. Thank you again for being on. And everyone out there, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of this show. If you ever need help building out custom strategies for your business or deciding what actions to take next, head over to MediaLeadsCo.com and let's connect. I'll talk to you soon on the next Strategy and Action.